April 1865. The American Civil War is drawing to a close. For 4 long years, the United States had been torn apart, with over 600,000 men dead in a brutal conflict between the Union and the Confederacy. President Abraham Lincoln, who had fought relentlessly to preserve the nation, was now seeing the fruits of victory. But in just a matter of days, the triumph of the Union would be overshadowed by an event that would shake the country to its core: the first assassination of a U.S. president. On March 4, 1865, Abraham Lincoln stood before the Capitol to deliver his second inaugural address. The war was nearly won, and Lincoln spoke of healing a wounded nation. But not everyone wished for peace. As Union forces closed in on the last remaining Confederate armies, a plot was brewing, one that aimed to kill Lincoln and throw the nation into chaos. On April 9th, Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse. The war was effectively over. Jubilation erupted across the North. Washington, D.C. was alive with celebrations, fireworks, and parades. But while the Union rejoiced, a small group of Confederate sympathizers saw the end of the war not as a time for peace, but for revenge. At the center of this conspiracy was a man whose name would become infamous: John Wilkes Booth. John Wilkes Booth was not just an actor, he was a vehement supporter of the Confederacy, a man who despised Lincoln and blamed him for the South's downfall. Booth had initially planned to kidnap the president, but after the Confederacy collapsed, he changed his plan to something far more sinister: assassination. He recruited a band of conspirators, each with their own target, in a coordinated effort to decapitate the Union government. Lincoln, Vice President Andrew Johnson, and Secretary of State William Seward were all marked for death. On April 14, 1865, Good Friday, Abraham Lincoln decided to unwind. He and his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, accepted an invitation to Ford's Theater to watch the play Our American Cousin. With the war effectively over, Lincoln had never looked more at peace. But unknown to him, Booth had learned of his plans and was already preparing for his final act. Booth knew Ford's Theater well. He waited for the perfect moment. At 10:15 p.m., he raised his .44 caliber Derringer pistol and fired a single shot into the back of Lincoln's head. As Lincoln slumped forward, Mary Todd Lincoln screamed. Major Henry Rathbone, a guest in the box, lunged at Booth, but the assassin slashed him with a dagger. Booth then leapt from the balcony, shouting, "Sic semper tyrannis," thus always to tyrants, as he landed awkwardly on the stage, breaking his leg. He still managed to escape out the back door, where a horse was waiting. Doctors rushed to Lincoln's side, but the wound was fatal. He was carried across the street to the Peterson House, where he was laid in a small bed. Throughout the night, government officials, military leaders, and his wife remained by his side as he struggled to breathe. At 7:22 a.m. on April 15, 1865, Abraham Lincoln took his final breath. Secretary of War Edwin Stanton, deeply moved, uttered the immortal words, "Now he belongs to the ages." The assassination sent shockwaves through the nation. Booth and his co-conspirators went on the run, but the manhunt was relentless. After 12 days on the run, Booth was finally cornered in a barn in Virginia. Refusing to surrender, he was shot and killed. Lincoln's funeral train traveled from Washington to Springfield, Illinois, as the nation mourned the loss of the man who had saved the Union. But despite his tragic end, Lincoln's legacy endured. He remains one of the most revered presidents in American history.